Hello, this is a Murakami Minute, presented by the Drunken Pen Writing Podcast. I'm your host, Caleb James. With me today, Mr. Spencer Church. We are slowly but surely winding down with the Murakami stories.
We'll get in there.
We are on story number 7 of First Person Singular. This one, interesting title again, because like the carnival story threw me off. This is not what I thought it was going to be at all. I was thinking like a cult or just here, let me read the name here. The Yakult Swallows Poetry Collection. Not what I was thinking when we got to the story that this was going to be what it was. Not even technically a story, actually. More biographical. But before I go into that, I actually found some information today that you'll be interested in. One, the translator, because I've been bitching about the translation, is done by Philip Gabriel, who's actually the guy who does most of his translations for all the stories I've read. So I thought, made me dive a little deeper. I was like, well, why do these stories seem like they're, while written by Murakami, they don't have that Murakami touch that I'm, so used to? So deep dive, First Person Singular, which is the last story, is actually the only new story in this collection. The other 7 were previously published in other works. So I'm guessing these are from magazines and, New Yorker, things like that. So I thought that was interesting. And like I said, this story, the Yakult Swallows Poetry Collection, isn't really a story, now is it?
No.
This one is just, it starts off, I'm thinking, unknown narrator, as always.
As normal for this.
Reads just like every other story in this collection. First person singular, that's the story. But then, it just throws in bold letters, this is Haruki Murakami.
It's like he name dropped himself.
And then it just reads as, he has a book called What I Think About When Running. I think that's the title. I'm imagining that's similar to what this story is, just his thoughts. This story is essentially him talking about writing his first novel. Well, he doesn't really go too deep into it. It's actually about baseball. The Yakult Swallows is a baseball team. Previously, something or other Astros. Adams. I forget.
I have enough trouble with American baseball that I know.
Yeah, I don't care about baseball at all. This was also the first story in this whole collection that did not really talk about music. But again, not really much of a story.
But
the baseball,
talking about baseball.
Yeah, honestly, the baseball, it doesn't even fucking matter. It's just about him going to what is essentially a loser baseball franchise. They always lose.
Pirates.
Yeah. The main theme of this seems to be where how to accept losing. And he was talking about like he wrote his first novel the same year that they actually won the championship, and he kind of felt like, and that was like what made him famous, because I think he actually entered into a contest and he won the contest, and that's how he became a writer. Because before that he owned Peter Cat Jazz Club or something along those lines. So he's talking about like the baseball team, and the one year they actually do good and win the championship, he feels like, because he's like one of the few loyal people to this team, nobody cares about this team. So, and this is again Haruki Murakami, so this is all real. He
or is it?
Or is it? I think it is, because this reads about everything I know about his life, because I know he got the inspiration to write when he was at like a baseball game and stuff, which is, the title is he actually started writing poetry, quotation marks, at
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know much about poetry.
This isn't,
but that didn't seem like poetry.
I'm going to read a couple of them, but he actually says in here that he's like, it's not really any poet would like, fucking want to whip my ass, because this isn't what it's considered poetry, but he self-published the book of poems because it was trash. No publisher wanted them. But now he says they're huge collector's editions, and he only has like a couple. He wishes he would have kept more. Yeah. So he would ring in the,
because he only printed like 500,
300,
something low like that. So
because he would have been rolling in the dough if he.
You're going to read the butt one though, right?
That was. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think?
I thought maybe
you know me. I'm reading the butt one. I didn't page mark it, so I will be flipping through. But yeah, the butt one is obviously the best one. We'll get there.
Now, have you seen anything about that book, that poem book? Like, as like going, like just like looking through his catalog?
Never heard of it. Yeah, never.
Or anything like that.
I mean, it was before he was famous or anything. So.
But I know, like sometimes even whenever if some people, depending, they might have written, what they'd done before they got
Right. Now, the thing I actually thought was interesting, because like I said, it's pretty much just biographical, but it is his view on like kind of like just defeat and overcoming defeat and how it can shape your life and stuff like that. And he actually had a lot of his family life thrown in here, which I didn't know, like his relationship with his father, who was a big baseball fan, but he would get real sour when his team lost because he was like I forget the name of the city, something Tigers, was it? Or something, whatever it fucking was. It's like one of the most famous Japanese baseball teams, and he name drops a lot of baseball players too.
Well, whatever the Yankee equivalent probably is.
So he talks about his dad, and then he talks about his mom, who had like Alzheimer's, and she collected these they're like these telephone cards with baseball players on them, and I mean, it's interesting. If you want to, just a little bit of a touch of Haruki Murakami's life, this is a cool, like, piece to read. But I'm going to go right into some of these poems.
I like to, like, because you talk about, like, sometimes the best times he had there were where they were losing, too.
Yeah.
Here he just, like...
They didn't even have stands. They had to sit in the grass. But, yeah, he talked about some of the best times.
I'm assuming that they have stands. It's just, like, the cheap seats are probably... Because, like, you even see how, like, an American field, like, the outfield will be, like, a grass-like area.
Right.
I just don't think they let him sit on it over here, though.
He also had something... Because he was talking about, like, the one night he went out and got... After his father died, he got hammered drunk. And it wasn't because he was sad or emotional or anything. He just felt like getting drunk. But he couldn't get drunk. And for whatever reason. And then he woke up the next day and he was, like, real sharp and stuff. And he thought that was strange, but there was a part where he's at a baseball game, and he's in the mood for a dark beer. He wants a dark beer, and that's normally not something you get at a baseball game. That's how he ends this story, actually. He finally finds a kid, like a young high school kid, who has it, and the kid apologizes profusely. He's like, I'm sorry, all I have is dark beer. He's like, hey, it's okay, man. And, that's what he wanted. So he takes the dark beer, and then that's how he kind of ends the story. Is about, pretty much saying that not everybody's going to like his writing. It's a personal taste, and he's like, sorry, all I have is dark beer, referring to his own work as something that is not for everybody, but if you do enjoy it, you probably really like it.
But don't a lot of people like his work, though? Don't he has a lot
but I mean, a lot of people like dark beer, too.
Other than maybe this
just
current book.
If you think of it as, okay, a baseball game, you think of baseball fans, just a whole stadium of baseball fans, the majority of those kind of people are probably just wanting like a lighter beer, a lager or something. They aren't going for a dark, heavy beer or anything like that.
It's all hot out and shit.
So if you just, compare that to reading audiences, most reading audiences nowadays, they just kind of want lighter, fluffier reads, fun stuff. And he's right, he does a lot of literary stuff.
And so there's a reading audience?
I mean, in Japan, they have a lot more readers than we do, probably. This first one, I'm not going to read all the poems, by the way. I'm just going to read this first one and then the butts one. Because they are, I will say, terrible. Which, he knows they're terrible. He talks about how terrible they are. He says they're pretty much just not poetry. You'll get the feel. But he wrote these, like, a lot of times in between, as he considers baseball a leisurely sport. So, while you're waiting for the next guy up to bat and all that stuff. Which I've been to a Pittsburgh Pirates game, a couple times in my life. And I was like, this is fucking boring. Why does anybody go to this? Oh my God, he hit it in the infield. Oh my God, he hit it in the infield again.
I remember like years ago, it has to be like 10 years ago, that I remember watching like a sports thing. And like Stephen King's a big Red Sox guy. And it was one of the times like the Red Sox were just getting their ass beat in just like a regular season game. And so he was in the outfield, but he was reading. So he's still at the game, but he was reading. And people were like, should he read? Should he be reading? Like, shouldn't he just go home if he doesn't want to? And since it's Stephen King, so he does whatever the fuck he wants.
Well, it also made me think. Well, just actually is a good example. You go to a baseball game, not necessarily just to be entertained, but kind of to relax.
Yeah.
Especially if you're going on, to see a losing team, a team that's always losing. You're probably just going just for the experience. Like, that'd be like us going to our local Washington Wild Things baseball game, if they still fucking have them. I don't know. But, like you're not going to there because it's exciting. You're just going there to hang out. This first poem, here, I'll just read the preceding paragraph, too. The first poem in my collection was the following one. There are two versions of the poem, a short version and a long one. And this is the long version. I add a few things later on. The poem is entitled Right Fielder. Remember, this is from Japanese, so this doesn't rhyme, but it may have in Japanese. I don't know. They might actually be a little better in Japanese than they're going to come across. Of course, the butts one probably is way better in English. So, right fielder. On that May afternoon, you're holding down right field at Jinju Stadium. The right fielder for the Senkai Atoms. That's your profession. I'm seated in the back of the right field's seats. Just reading how it's broken up, by the way. Drinking slightly lukewarm beer, like always. The opposing team's batter lost a fly to right field. A simple pop fly. It arcs high up, a lazy fly ball. The wind has stopped, and the sun isn't an issue. It's a piece of cake. You raise both hands a bit and step forward about 3 yards. You got this. I take a sip of beer. Waiting for the ball to drop, as straight as a ruler the ball falls, precisely 300 yards behind you, like a mallet lightly tapping the edge of the universe. There's a slight plunk. It makes me wonder, why in the world do I cheer on a team like this? This itself is a kind of riddle as huge as the universe. I have no idea what that's supposed to really mean. Oh, here's what he says after this. I have no idea if this could be called a poem. If you did, it might make actual poets upset. Make them want to string me up from the nearest light pole. I'll pass on that, thank you very much. Okay, but then what should I call these? If there's a better name for them, then I'd like to know it. So for the time being, at least, I labeled them poems. And then he gathered them in a collection called the Yakult Swallows Poetry Collection, which you probably can't buy now. Probably very valuable. Man, that's what's funny, too. If you become famous, if you put out some fucking dog shit that's very hard to get, like you just had a couple printed up pieces of fucking trash that you called a story or something.
Yeah.
But that's all there is out there is a couple of them. People are going to buy them up for thousands of dollars. All right, Spencer. You want me to read the butts?
Yes.
Bird Shadow. That ain't it. That's probably a good one.
I think it's so. Isn't it like the last one?
Yeah, I got it. Yeah. This is from the Hanshin Tigers outfielder. I don't. No, that's the team his dad, like the Hanshin Tigers. So this is the very weird. I'll say weird poem. It's entitled "Outfielders' Butts." I enjoy gazing at the butts of outfielders. What I mean is, when I'm watching a slow-going, losing game from the outfield seats by myself, how else can I enjoy myself besides staring at the outfielders' butts? If there's some other way, I'd sure like to know. I could talk the night away about outfielders' glutes. The Swallows center fielder John Scott's butt is beautiful beyond measure. His legs are ridiculously long and look as if they're suspended in the air. Like a bold metaphor that makes your heart sing. Compared to this, the legs of the left fielder, Wakamatsu, are incredibly short. When the two players stand together, Scott's butt is about at the level of Wakamatsu's chin. The Tigers' Rhineback has a butt so symmetrical you can't help but love it. Just one look and it all makes sense. It goes on. The butt of the Hiroshima Carps player, Shane, is deeply thoughtful, cerebral. Reflective, you might say. People really should have called him by his full name, Shineblum, if for nothing else than to show respect for that one-of-a-kind butt. I was about to list the names of outfielders whose butts are not what you'd call attractive, but decided I better not. After all, you have to consider their mothers and siblings and wives and kids if they have any. Remember, that is a poem. And he also tells you who these players are in little addition at the bottom of the pages. So if you have this collection and you're interested to know who these delicious butts were and you wanted to investigate,
do some Googling.
Yeah, he gives you some names. So yeah, that was weird. Like,
really weird.
Why did he add that?
You know what needs to be
why is just old man Murakami looking at baseball players' butts?
You know what that one like uber super drunken pen writing fan needs to do? They need to splice that in with your was it
James Joyce
fart
fiction.
Yeah, somebody needs to like how they can make like rap songs out of it. Someone needs to swipe those two things together and just mix it.
That'd be good. I'll end this with the last paragraphs here. When I write novels, I often experience the same feeling as that young man. I want to face people, and this was talking about the beer guy that you got the beer off of. I want to face people in the world and apologize to each and every one. I'm sorry, but all I have is dark beer. But no matter, let's not get into novels here. Tonight's game is about to begin. I'm praying that our team wins, but at the same time, quietly steeling myself for the possibility of yet another loss. So it's, I guess, pretty much an allegory for his writing, I guess. You know, whatever.
I mean, the only reason I thought it was kind of interesting is just because he identified it as himself.
Yeah.
And so it was just another, like, nameless narrator.
Like I said, if that was, you know, like just like a biographical bit of Murakami's life and, you know, at the beginning of his writing career in baseball, I could see that being interesting if it was like a, like some kind of biographical novel. like a Hunter S. Thompson kind of like well written, maybe slightly embellished kind of thing. I could see that being it. Didn't Stephen King do something about the baseball too? Didn't he write like a?
Probably, I think so.
I thought he wrote like a book about the Red Sox or something. I could be wrong. If not, then you didn't read that, which means you're not caught up on Stephen King.
Well, I don't. He has a couple nonfiction things that I've never checking out.
You harlot.
Yep. Now, does this just cement more of the theory that we think that these are like
all Murakami?
Right. Except talking to the monkey.
That might have happened to him too. I mean, I could see that happen. If anybody's gonna talk to a monkey, I think it would be Murakami. I think that would happen.
If it was gonna happen to somebody, it would be him.
Oh boy. Well, that's been a Murakami minute. We hope. I feel like that was a little more insightful than some of these because at least we could understand the subject matter more than Charlie Parker. And some of those music heavy episodes. Of course, that's another thing. Like, I like Murakami, but if I met him in person, like, I don't give a shit about baseball, let alone Japanese baseball. And I couldn't name that many jazz or classical musicians that he would know, so I probably wouldn't have much to talk to him about.
Or wine.
Seems
like a wine guy.
He's a big cocktail guy, too. But yeah, that was a Murakami Minute. Peace out.